about 9 months ago, I made this video and I thought, why not do a part 2? So today we're going to be talking all about what non-binary people wish you knew about being non-binary. I know that there are always things that I wish people knew about being a non-binary person as a non-binary person. So I hope this video helped. But before we get into the video, I just want to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 30,000 subscribers before Pride Month, so be sure to do that. It's like 80-ish% of you that watch my videos and aren't subscribed, so be sure to do that. I also just want to let you know that I do have a Patreon. It helps me make more videos like this and support me as a small queer content creator to hopefully go full-time eventually. I'm hoping by the end of the year. So if you want to help this little queer bean out, be sure to do that, and let's get into the video. I want anyone to know that instead of worrying about pronouns, ask me my name. Then use that instead of he or she. Steven will be here blank time, not he/she will be there. Simple, uncomplicated. Honestly, I genuinely feel that I would rather prefer people use my name than he or she if they're not going to use they them pronouns for me. I definitely prefer just saying, oh, Lynn will do this, Lynn will do that, as opposed to getting misgendered. So I definitely feel this comment 100%. So if you are having a hard time with they them pronouns because it's a newer concept for you, ask the person what their name is and start using their name as opposed to he or she, so then you can get into the flow of it and then you can start trying to get better with they them pronouns in your vernacular. Non-binary is not the same as gender non-conforming. There are lots of cis people who are gender non-conforming, and there are lots of binary trans people who are gender non-conforming as well. You don't have to be gender non-conforming to be non-binary, and you don't have to be non-binary or trans to be gender non-conforming. Literally this. I feel like people get confused with the two, mostly because I feel like the term gender non-conforming has been around so much longer, and people who were raised in like 60s, 70s, 80s have a bit more of a context for that. So they're like, oh, non-binary people are just gender non-conforming people. And it's not the same thing. Gender non-conforming is a cis person who doesn't conform to the gender roles, clothing, expectations that are put upon cis people, aka feminine cis men, masculine cis women, androgynous cis people. But it's not the same as being a non-binary person. A non-binary person doesn't identify with the gender that they're assigned at birth, just like binary trans people don't identify with the gender that they're assigned at birth. So it's two different things. So gender non-conforming person is a cis person who isn't really, like, you know, doing what cis people want them to do. And then non-binary people are under the trans umbrella and not identifying or feeling comfortable and having dysphoria around the gender that they're assigned at birth. So yeah, they're two different things. And like the comment said, there are binary trans people who are gender non-conforming as well. So it's not just cis people that can be gender non-conforming. But yeah, it's two different things. And I know that there are some non-binary people who get a little, I don't want to say annoyed, but frustrated with the idea when you come out and you're like, I'm non-binary, and people are like, oh, you're just gender non-conforming, or why can't you just be gender non-conforming? It's like, it's two different things. Being non-binary is not always a phase or break on your journey to become a real trans person. Both staying with this label and proceeding to another cis or binary trans is valid and does not change what a person is comfortable with at the moment. Literally this. Oh my god. So like, non-binary is not a stepping stone into binary transness. For some people it can be. For some people, being non-binary or identifying as non-binary for a time can definitely be a way into being more comfortable with themselves and then having that realization that they're a binary trans person. But that's not everyone. If someone comes out to you as non-binary and you say, oh, you're just a man or a woman, depending on stuff, like you'll eventually be a binary trans person, it's so invalidating. And it just erases like actual centuries of history of non-binary people that exist. So yeah, non-binary isn't a phase. It can definitely be something that some people experience in getting more comfortable with themselves in order to identify as a binary trans person. And then I've actually seen it the other way around too. I've seen binary people come out as like a binary trans person and then later on be like, oh, I'm actually non-binary. So it can go both ways. But yeah, it's not a phase and it's not something that the person can change. It's not that. And like the person said, if you are questioning your gender, you come out as non-binary and then you come out as a cis person or a binary trans person, that's literally fine. It's not invalidating for how you're feeling in that moment. And I feel like there's just so much gatekeeping around having to find the perfect label for yourself the very first time, which is crazy because people are changing all of the time. So it doesn't make sense to me a lot when people are like, oh, you've come out as this, and this. I'm like, yeah, what's wrong with that? Like, it's okay to change the label if that's how you're feeling. It's just it. It doesn't invalidate what you were going through at that time. You do not have to be a certain way to be non-binary. Your self-expression has nothing to do with your gender identity or sexuality. If you were to present more feminine or masculine, that does not discredit you as not being non-binary. There is no one way to be non-binary. This is so true. I feel like when you come out as non-binary, because people don't understand it a lot, depending on the gender you were assigned at birth and all of that, you can kind of go one way or the other with it. So for myself, I know that when I was first coming out as non-binary, I definitely over-masculinized myself in order to be seen as a real non-binary person. I have to look as androgynous as possible and I have to present in the very traditional, like if you were assigned female at birth, short hairs, try to be as masculine as possible and that kind of stuff. It was fine. I just definitely know now that that's just not necessarily the right thing for me. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad to be a feminine non-binary person or a masculine non-binary person. It just wasn't for me. And it's now that I'm older and more comfortable with myself and not really caring what other people think and knowing that I'm non-binary no matter what, I definitely feel more comfortable in how I am now. But yeah, non-binary people don't owe you androgyny, they don't owe you femininity, they don't owe you masculinity, don't owe anything. It's just whatever makes us comfortable, and that's just it. There really is no one way to be non-binary, and I feel like that's what confuses a lot of people because there's so many rigid sets in Western colonialized world and everyone just wants to be put into like little boxes, and non-binary people kind of push against those boxes, and it's like, no, like this is not it. So no one way to be non-binary. You can look however you want, you can present however you want and still be non-binary. As the parent of a non-binary being, don't ask me personal questions about my kid's body. Regardless of the kid's age, if I bring something up, that's on me, and I would do so only if my offspring's permission. I don't even ask them intrusive questions. They're an adult and I'm the mama. I don't understand why people ask like the most intrusive shit. It's so weird. It's so weird to me. And especially like if you are the parent of like a non-binary person and they have given you permission to like openly talk about like them and their experience, and then people ask you those I can't even imagine. I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I would be like, can you not ask about my child in that way? Like, that's just kind of weird. I've been asked somewhat intrusive questions about being non-binary, mostly about like what kind of surgeries I want and like what's going on places and if I would ever go on hormone, which like most of the time I'm fine with answering that, but other times, like depending on how aggressively they're asking, I'm just like, yeah, I don't feel comfortable talking about this with you specifically. So yeah, it depends on the person for me, but if someone is coming out as non-binary and you want to ask questions about what non-binary is and what it's like to be non-binary, literally ask them first, like, hey, I don't know that much about it. Is it okay if I ask you certain questions? Or if you don't have the spoons for it, do you have like resources that I could look into? Or you could just Google it yourself because Google is a thing that I feel like people forget about, and you can learn so much online from Google and other resources and content creators who openly talk about being non-binary, such as myself. Not every non-binary person will have the emotional capacity to like explain everything about being non-binary to you, which is completely fine, and they don't have to do that. So yeah, if you are ever interested, resources are always online. If you want to learn more about being non-binary, just don't ask non-binary people invasive questions, please, for the love of God. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments down below what you wish people knew about being non-binary. If you want to see a part 3 to this, I definitely will. Also, be sure to subscribe and check out my Patreon down in the description, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.